Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Sears, and we are now beginning the Lucidworks Managed Search webinar on Apache Solar in the cloud. Like I said, I'm Justin Sears. I run product marketing at Lucidworks, and I'm joined by our senior engineer for Lucidworks Managed Search, Shalan Mangar. Shalan,
Hello,
introduce
everyone.
yourself.
Hi,
Thank you.
I'm Shalan Mangar. I'm a senior engineer on the Lucidworks Managed Search team. I'm also a committer in Apache Solar, and I'm incredibly excited to introduce this newest product to you. Over to you, Justin.
Fantastic. We will leave time at the end for questions. Please send those throughout the webinar in the Q&A tool in the conference platform that you've logged into. Because we have a large audience, we'll keep the lines muted and we'll reserve some time at the end to answer those questions. Brief agenda, we'll go through a product overview, then Shalan will give a preview showing some screenshots and some code related to the product, and then we'll close with ways to begin to engage with us about moving over to Lucidworks Managed Search. Lucidworks Managed Search makes it easy to deploy, scale, and operate Apache Solar on public, private, or hybrid cloud infrastructures. Lucidworks' solar expertise is unmatched, and we have one of the solar committers with me on the call right now. Our employees are responsible for contributing about half of the Apache Solar open source code. In addition, many of the world's largest companies rely on us for their critical solar applications. So we understand the challenges enterprises face when deploying and managing solar at scale. Managing and scaling infrastructure, administering security, and performing upgrades for an enterprise-grade solar environment can be difficult and expensive. And this prevents infrastructure leaders from delivering solar's time-tested advantages to their organizations through such things as creating applications for their end users. And getting solar wrong can harm your business. Missed SLAs, security breaches, poor performance, and weak user adoption are just a few of the risks. With Lucidworks Managed Search, you don't have to worry about keeping solar up and running, so you can focus on your business instead. Lucidworks Managed Search meets the demands of your business while decreasing your hardware footprint and costs. Shalan and I will cover each of these 6 areas in more detail in the next few slides. First, Lucidworks Managed Search provides reliable operations with automatic backups, load balancing, and comprehensive dashboards for visibility into the health of your solar clusters. Our highly available service ensures you won't lose data or compromise performance at peak traffic times. Multi-zone availability keeps your apps running even if a zone goes down. Dedicated hosts protect you from the noisy neighbor problem of other organizations consuming too much resource and harming your performance. And out-of-the-box autoscaling spins nodes up and down as needed and can be configured to scale based on workload or schedule. Managed Search is secured with enterprise-grade authentication, assuring that only authorized users can log in, and after that, only access permitted documents according to their permissions. Encryption of data at rest further protects around unauthorized data access or theft. And auditing capabilities make it easy to understand if anyone has modified the cluster or its configuration. Lucidworks Managed Search gives you the operational metrics your team needs to understand how your system is performing. Teams can monitor system health, provision nodes with the click of a button, and configure autoscaling settings through the Managed Search control plane. Automatic upgrades for minor releases give you fast access to new solar features and fixes. And of course, our developer-friendly service offers a single, reliable point of connection that includes Solar API compatibility, and support for SQL and the Solar J client library. Your developers can integrate Lucidworks Managed Search into their existing workflows with our API-driven continuous integration and delivery support. And there's no need to rewrite your existing applications when moving to our service. And finally, cost savings. In addition to saving your valuable engineering resources from undifferentiated heavy lifting just managing the solar environment, Lucidworks Managed Search also saves you money on infrastructure. Our autoscaling policies mean you only pay for what you use when you need it. And when you migrate, you don't need to waste cycles re-indexing your existing apps. Our 24/7 enterprise support is there to assist you when you run into questions or issues with your system. So, of course, Apache Solar is a powerful engine. I know many people listening to this call are already familiar with Solar in some way. So you know that Solar can scale and perform better than any other big data search platform. However, customization and expertise is required for optimal results. Lucidworks Managed Search lets you take advantage of the benefits of Apache Solar without the headache of operations and management, so your teams can get back to driving value to your business. This table is a summary of the advantages of moving your Apache Solar workloads to Lucidworks Managed Search, comparing a do-it-yourself native Apache Solar cluster to what you get in addition when you move to Lucidworks Managed Search. Here's a little bit of the roadmap so you understand where we're moving. This is a relatively new service for Lucidworks. Nevertheless, in 2019, we work on delivering support for AWS, multi-region clusters, use case-specific bundles, automatic and scheduled backups, restore to point-in-time snapshots, support for rolling upgrades, and workload partitioning. In 2020, the roadmap includes cross-region replication and failover, support for Microsoft Azure, use case-specific performance optimizations, cloud index storage, performance testing APIs, and API-based deployments of a la carte Fusion services. As a subscriber to Lucidworks Managed Search, you will be able to take advantage of these new features as soon as they are delivered seamlessly and without a change to your service agreement. So that's a high-level overview of Lucidworks Managed Search. Now I want to turn it over to Shaolin, who will preview some technical detail that Lucidworks Managed Search offers. Over to you, Shaolin.
Thanks, Justin. So we're going to start by taking a look at how you can use this service through our API and through our UI dashboard. And we're going to take a look at some specific examples of common operations such as creating or upgrading clusters, enabling autoscaling, and so on. So with that, let's dive into the first example. This is based on our Managed Search API. This is showing that we are going to create a new solar cluster called products with 3 nodes of standard XLarge type. These are 8 CPU boxes. The storage on each of those nodes is going to be 100 gigabytes. And then you have a description of this cluster for your own purposes. You can do the same thing if you don't prefer an API access. You can do the same thing using our Lucidworks Managed Search dashboard. Here's a screenshot of how you create a new cluster. It's basically the same parameters that you saw in the API, but in a nice, easy-to-use UI interface. So here again, we're creating a cluster called Security Dev. It has a cluster name or description for your own records. It has a node count, a node type that you can choose. And in future, when we have support for multiple regions, you will be able to choose which region you want to work on or you want to create this cluster on. And then you can configure things like auto-scaling and backups. Here's another screenshot of the dashboard, which shows the list of clusters that are running. And you can see their status right there, whether they're operational or under repair, or if you deleted them, they might be in a terminating state, and so on and so forth. So any problems with your clusters will be highlighted right here in the first page itself so that you can take quick actions. Most solar-related problems that affect people at scale are actually taken care of by the service itself. We have custom modifications to solar to make sure that you don't run into those common problems that you do with open source solar. And some of those customizations are only possible because it's a managed service. Wherever possible, we have tried to push back some of those improvements and bug fixes back to solar itself. Here is another API example to upgrade a cluster. Now we have the same products cluster, so you'll see that the URL looks like the customer name and the clusters/products. So this is the product cluster that we created in the earlier example. And what we're doing here is we're upgrading the type of the node that this cluster runs on from the standard XLarge to a Highmem 2X large type. These are 16 CPU boxes with quite a bit more memory than the standard ones. We are also increasing the storage size from 100 gigabytes to 200 gigabytes. And all this is done without any downtime to your solar clusters. This is done through a rolling restart, and the service makes sure that we don't drop requests during this time. So this allows you to scale your cluster. You scale your nodes vertically by moving to bigger and larger, beefier boxes. You can just as well scale down to smaller node types if you want to save cost or if you don't need the larger boxes. In future, we have a roadmap item to provide some performance testing APIs, and you will be able to use those APIs to figure out the optimal size of your cluster based on certain parameters and workload. And you can use that information to further size or resize your clusters using this same upgrade API. One thing to note is that the storage size can only be increased. It cannot be decreased. However, you are free to either move to a larger instance type or a smaller instance type. And the managed service will take care to make sure that you don't lose data. Or so, for example, if your index size is already, say, 150 gigabytes, and you move to a smaller node that does not have enough RAM to meet your performance requirements, then managed search will not let you do that operation itself. So that way it prevents against accidental changes that might hurt your performance. Here is another example of enabling auto-scaling on your solar cluster. In this case, we are going to enable auto-scaling on the products cluster by saying that auto-scaling is enabled. The minimum number of nodes that I want to run in this cluster are 3. And the maximum number of nodes that I ever want to have are 11 nodes. And then I'm specifying a target search rate, which is 100 queries per second per node. So this lets you auto-scale your solar clusters based on the actual search traffic. So as your search traffic starts ramping up, Lucidworks Managed Search will increase the number of running nodes from 3 and up to 11 in a stepwise fashion. And all this happens without any downtime automatically for you. So you'll see that auto-scaling is made really, really easy, and we have gone through a lot of pain on the backend side to ensure that this is possible and easy and seamless. Similarly, as your target search rate starts dropping down, nodes will be removed, again, while making sure that you don't lose any data ever. So this lets you scale dynamically based on actual search traffic, and it lets you pay for only the instances that you actually use. So this is a great way to save costs while maintaining elasticity on your Solar clusters. Here we have another example, again based on the API, and of course both of these options are available on the dashboard as well if you prefer a click button interface. In this case, instead of scaling by the search rate, we are setting a schedule. So what we are saying here is that autoscaling is enabled, and on the weekend, on Saturday at 000 hours, we want to set the number of nodes in the system to just 3, and it will remain at 3 nodes until Monday morning, 7 a.m., at which point the number of nodes will scale up to 15. And on Monday itself, at 2100 hours, the number of nodes will decrease to 5. And this will happen on every weekday. So what this basically is doing is that, on the weekends when you are expecting more traffic, your solar cluster scales up in the morning and scales down automatically in the evening. And then perhaps during the weekend, maybe your corporate offices are closed and you're using this for enterprise search, for example, you can save a lot of money by just having a very minimal set of nodes running during the weekend. And this is a great way of saving cost. Of course, you pay for the nodes that you actually run. So you can set the schedule if you know beforehand how your traffic is going to shape up over weekdays and weekends. Here we are taking a very high-level look at the architecture behind the scenes. The service runs on Google Cloud platform today in the US Western region. Support for multiple regions and support for AWS is coming very soon within this year itself. So what we have here is a public endpoint, which is a Google load balancer. This goes to our gateway service, which then forwards the request to the solar cluster which is accessed. Of course, before a request can be routed to a solar cluster, it goes through our authentication service, which makes sure that the user is authenticated and authorized to access that particular resource. All of this runs on top of auto-scaling node pools, which resize your solar clusters dynamically based on search rate and schedules. And then we have a set of auxiliary services such as rate limiting, metrics, and alerting to ensure operational visibility and ease of use. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to Justin, who is going to take you through the steps on how to engage with us on using this service and further. Over to you, Justin.
Thanks, Shawan, and thanks to those that have been sending in questions. We'll get to those in a minute. Keep sending them through the Q&A tool in the presentation portal. The steps are actually quite easy. The first step is to begin talking with us. We recently launched this service, and we've been engaging with a large number of customers right out of the gate. But we would love to talk with you if you're interested. So the first step is go to this web page, lucidworks.com/LMS, short for Lucidworks Managed Search. And there's a meeting schedule utility on this page. Just tell us a little about what you're interested in, what your questions are, and we'll get right back to you and find a time to talk. This is a free consultation. We understand that this is a service that is widely applicable to a lot of people that are already using solar. It might not be for everybody, so we'll have a brief conversation to make sure that there's a good match there, and then we'll go from there. You'll be in good hands with our sales organization. So without further ado, I do want to start going into questions. We've got some great ones here. Keep sending them in if you're still thinking through some of these. the first question, I think this is going to be one for you, Shalin, because it's more about the operations and the technical side. The question was, what steps would be necessary to migrate the solar cluster in our data center onto your cloud service?
So the steps are actually really, really easy. Lucidworks Managed Search is fully API compatible with open source solar, and we intend to keep it that way. And what that means is basically that any existing applications that you have for indexing or query, especially if they're using the SolarJ Java client, which is the official Java client for Solar, you can just point them at the Lucidworks managed clusters. The only thing that you would need to change is to replace the open source SolarJ client with a Lucidworks provided one, which is nothing but just a few plugins on top of the same open source SolarJ client to make sure that you can authenticate using OAuth 2 security.
Fantastic. Here's another one. How can we tell whether our existing apps will be disrupted if we decided to move to Lucidworks Managed Search? I'll take the first part of that. From the business side, from now through the end of January, we're running a promotion right now that includes 20 free hours of professional services for the first 10 customers that sign up under this promotion. So again, you can contact us on the page I shared earlier, and you could use those free services for Lucidworks consultants to analyze and plan for a smooth migration. So that's on the business interaction promotion side. But Shalin, let me put that same question to you. For those that have built applications that are running on a do-it-yourself solar cluster, what do we say to them about reassuring them that they won't be those apps won't be disrupted?
Yeah, sure. So as I said before, Managed Search exposes Solar directly, and it is fully API compatible. So there are very few changes necessary. The chief one is basically to support the security model that we use. All the schema and config APIs, as well as search and index APIs that are supported by Solar, are exposed as is. There are just a few protections in place to make sure that people don't shoot themselves in the foot. So, for example, if you upload a bad schema or a bad configuration parameter, then we have some protections to make sure that does not take down your cluster immediately, and you can get to know that, hey, this operation failed because it was not valid, or the file was corrupted, and so on and so forth. So all we're trying to do here is to make it even more easier for you to use the service, to run the service, and avoid any operational issues. And the one thing that I would also like to say here is it actually makes it even better because of the API support that we have to create and delete clusters. So that makes it really easy for people to integrate this service into their continuous integration and delivery environments. So it makes testing your code and changes a lot easier than it used to be before.
Thanks, Sean. We got another one for you. Thinking about not so much what comes out the other end of Lucidworks Managed Search into applications, but getting data in. This question asks, will the data sources that we're currently ingesting into Solar also ingest into your PaaS offering?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's the one that we have heard from many of our customers when they start engaging with us. So all custom SolarJ-based solutions, indexing solutions, can ingest into our platform with really minor changes. I would say the only exception is the data import handler, which is a Solar plugin. It's a really old Solar plugin, actually, which ingests data from databases and such things. Because it runs as a plugin inside Solar, you need to drop like custom jars, custom JDBC drivers, and such things. And this basically becomes a security problem. Sometimes it can potentially become a security problem So that's the reason why we don't support that flagging. But apart from that, all your custom SolarJade-based solutions that you have today can just seamlessly be ported over to managed search. Really minor changes.
Excellent. And let's see, we have one more question that has come in through Q&A. The question is, we have 2 solar engineers on staff. How might we redirect their activities if we move to your solar cloud service? I can take that one and then feel free to pile on, Shalin, afterwards. I would say this, your solar engineers are now available, or more of their time's available, to perform tasks that directly improve your business, like I was mentioning earlier in the slides I was talking through. So for example, they can take some of that time that they're currently using to maintain the solar environment or solar operations and use that time to work on things like improving relevancy or improving analytics or creating new applications. And because they're free from the operational burden of maintaining and operating solar clusters, they can unlock other value that solar can deliver to your organization. Sean, any other advice on what to do with that resource that this will free up?
No, I think you covered it really well, Justin. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Fantastic. Last call for any other questions. I don't see any, so really want to thank folks for taking the time to listen to this brief presentation. We're very excited to be offering Lucidworks Managed Search as the technical leaders behind the original Apache Solar project. We are very excited to bring this service and this great technology to a much larger audience. And again, we would welcome the opportunity to talk with any of you about taking us up on Lucidworks Managed Search, and look forward to speaking with you in the future. Shalin, any last words before we sign off?
No, I think we're good. This team that we have here is really excited about this product. We have poured a lot of energy and sweat into it. Our staff of solar commuters have a lot of experience running solar and supporting solar at scale at various organizations through a variety of complicated workloads and use cases. So we have taken all of that experience, poured it back into this product to make it work for you. So
Thank you,
we're really
Shalin.
looking forward to engaging with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalin. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and we look forward to talking with you about Lucidworks Managed Search in the future. That concludes our webinar.